Hello everyone, welcome to the DraftCast. I'm your host, Luke Headley. This is episode 9 of our series that we've got going on. This week we've got Adam Waters on from Pique Blinders. How are you doing, Adam?
Hello mate, how's it going? Yeah, very well, thank you. Save the best till last. I expect
definitely.
Nothing less.
Definitely been looking forward to having you on. I know you're going to bring us a good segment later on, and it's going to be a good one, I'm hoping. Could be quite a long one, guys, so I hope you're prepared.
Better coffee up and everything.
Yeah. So we're going to do our review of the league table for game week 20. We'll do a review of Adam's team and also my team. We'll do some predictions for game week 21. We've also got Adam's segment, and I've also got a secret announcement to make, so we'll get onto that later. So we'll start with the league table for game week 20. A little bit of movement with Tolly jumping up across everyone at the bottom. Will's got back in front of Tom after the last game week. Tolly scoring the highest again, or not again, but scoring the highest this week. George with the lowest of 30. So quite a good week all round. It's a good bunch up now, isn't it? I mean, you could almost say from 4th to 10th is pretty tight with only 33 points in it. So yeah, it's interesting.
Well,
it's definitely grouping up.
It's getting fun now. Actually, it's the grind is really starting to begin. I mean, you've got yourself and Lawrence that just seem to be picking up good points every week. So as you know, like you mentioned, 4th and 10th are now bunching up, but I'm sure the people like myself and George and Rich and Will and Tolly and Tom as well, we're trying to get closer to you guys, but actually we're just getting closer amongst ourselves.
It's good though. It's a good battle.
So it's very much so. It's interesting because actually, you know, take last game week when Tom got the 103, I got the 99, and you think, okay, that's brought us back into contention. And then you get somebody like Tolly that then goes and smashes a 68. Yeah. And you think, well, it's that last week is kind of being defeated by it, really. So, but it's good fun. It's nice now that everything's getting really competitive.
Yeah, definitely. And unfortunately, I think Tom's getting a bit of stick from his predictions from last week, but he did say 4 game weeks, so there's a few more to go before we can actually analyze his prediction.
This is it. I think Tolly is taking great pleasure in terms of kind of making that look a bit silly. But like I said, there's still 3 weeks left of that prediction, so we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Interestingly, he's changed his name. I hadn't noticed that. Do you know why?
Yeah, the Staggy Stagnant.
Yeah.
I briefly put it in the chat earlier, and there was no response to it. So I don't know whether he's got he's adopted a stag. I don't know.
I presume it's for the stag this weekend for Will and James.
That is true, actually. I wonder if it's just going to be a 1 game week only, or whether he's going to continue to change his name every week or revert back.
Who knows? So
who knows what goes on in Tolly's head?
Yeah. Oh, he's not going to like that, Adam. So let's move on and do our team reviews. So we'll start with your team. I say a respectable week of 37. Your Villa boys did you well?
It was. I was hoping for a little bit more. I'm not going to lie. But actually, going into Wednesday night where I had the Villa boys playing, obviously Jack Grealish does what he does, gets me out of the mire. Ollie Watkins now back on the score sheet, 2-2.
Yeah.
Hoping that can continue. I got let down on the Wednesday night when the news came out that Reguilon was going to be out for a month, so that left a defender with 0, so only had 2 defenders play. But it is what it is. You can't really complain too much. There's plenty of time left. So
yeah. So who disappointed you the most this week, do you think?
Always got to be the Pep roulette. Taking Foden off after, I think it was about kind of just after half time. I think he took him off in like the 50th minute against West Brom. I appreciate the game was probably wrapped up, but I wish there would be a clause that no substitutes were allowed until the 60th minute, so we can all get at least 2 or 3 points for the clean sheet. And then Bernardo Silva came off with, I think it was like 59 minutes and 30 seconds. So it's just frustrating, really. But I'd probably say that they let me down the most. But then it was quite a frustrating week in general because Benrahma and Antonio for West Ham, playing Palace away. Antonio missed, I think must have been about 4 good chances, hit the post twice.
Really?
Benrahma set 2 of those up. So it could have been a worldie week, and it turned out to be a bit of a letdown, really.
Do you think Tom's prediction of Foden let you down? Probably jinxed it.
Yeah, it was. He's properly jinxed it. I might pick one of his players just to hopefully jinx him back. But it's Pep roulette. You never know what you're going to get from game week to game week. So, hopefully he'll play 90 minutes again this weekend, and they've got a fairly favourable fixture. So let's see if he can make up for it.
So let's have a look at your game week 21 team sheet. You've made a couple of waivers and changes.
Yeah.
I see you've picked up Bale. It's an interesting one.
It's there was a late trade gone through this morning with Jack, because I'm really intrigued with Chelsea's appointment of Thomas Tuchel. From getting an idea as to how he played with PSG and Dortmund, he's very kind of fullback orientated, so very much like kind of Liverpool in the respect that they like to play with their fullbacks really, really high. Now it's a bit of a game because he actually started with Azpilicueta for his first game, but I managed to trade with Jack for Reece James, and I'm just thinking hopefully he'll be able to pick me up some nice points between now and the end of the season. And as we know, the draft loves a bonus point for a fullback. So let's hope that can come to fruition a little bit more.
Definitely.
Yeah, the Bale one was it's a big gamble, massive gamble, because as we know, he's just hardly played really since Tottenham brought him in from Madrid. With the Kane injury, was originally hoping that perhaps either Son would go up front, which then leaves a place on the wing for Bale, or perhaps like for Wales, Bale plays up top the majority of the time. So perhaps I thought that might be a bit of a gamble. But obviously the news coming out from Jose's press conference saying that Bale's not going to play as a striker, that kind of poo-pooed that one really. So I'm hoping he might get a place on the wing, maybe play Son up front, but he might just stick with Vinicius, and then it makes me look silly again. So we'll use this weekend as a bit of a gamble run for him and just see as to what happens.
Fair enough. I see you've also picked up Vestergaard in prep for his return.
I knew you'd like that one.
Yeah.
I've been eyeing him for a couple of weeks, and I didn't know quite when the right time was to bring him in, because obviously he has been injured. But before his injury, obviously Southampton were flying, and he was a major problem at set pieces. So
Definitely.
I was hoping that he comes straight back into the side and picks up good points. So I thought I'd try and get a bit early for him, and hopefully, that'll help with the next coming game weeks. I mean, Southampton have got an okay run coming up. I mean, take for example United away. We saw them at home the other day against Sheffield United, pretty useless at set pieces, especially. Newcastle away. Newcastle are fairly poor. Wolves at home. Wolves aren't really setting the world alight. Chelsea, again, not really setting the world alight. So we'll hope that he picks up good points between now and especially over the next few game weeks through February.
You definitely beat me to it, because my plan was all along to put him in free agency whilst he was injured and then pick him back up again when he was fit to play. So you've beaten me to it on that one.
Well, I'm always open to a good trade, Luke. I'm sure we
see.
could come to some sort of agreement.
Yeah. So who are you looking to score well for you this week?
Oh, so this one's an interesting one because I've picked up Willian Jose da Silva, who is Wolves' new striker. He's come over from La Liga in Spain and not set the world alight, but he's been okay. I think he's averaged double figures for goals over the last couple of years. So that might be a fairly shrewd signing for Wolves, especially as they're so reliant on Neto and Podence when he's fit that they actually need a main kind of number 9 striker, and I'm hoping that he might. I'm sure he probably won't fill the whole gap left by Raul Jimenez, but I'm hoping he might just chip in with a couple second half of the season. So with Palace away coming up this week, I fancy him to hopefully get off on the front foot. Otherwise, it's my defence of Ruben Dias, Reece James. I'd hope for them to pick up clean sheets at home to Sheffield United and Burnley. But as we know, Burnley love a goal against a big team. They scored 3 against one of the best in midweek. Yeah. So we'll have to wait and see. But I'm quietly confident to pick up a couple of points. But I'm looking at my front 3 of Willian Jose, Watkins, and hopefully Antonio with Liverpool's leaky defence.
Yeah. The Southampton game could be an interesting one because there was loads of goals in their game earlier in the season. So, yeah, I wasn't sure. I've been struggling with my who to play this week. And, I think that one's going to be an interesting one.
I'm really looking forward to the Southampton Villa game because, like you said, the game at Villa Park was 4-3 to Saints. And kind of thanks to James Ward-Prowse, really. I mean, he had a worldy game. So I'd certainly, if I was you, be putting him straight into the heart of midfield. But it's 2 good footballing sides that make good chances. So you never know. We might have another high-scoring game again.
Yeah. I haven't got any more questions for you, so we can move on to my team, which hasn't been done so far on the DraftCast. We've focused mainly on our guests, so I've given Adam the honour of doing my team review. So we'll start with game week 20, and I've done quite good. I'm quite happy with this week, so 53 points for me this week.
It's a very decent week. Like I mentioned, you and Lawrence seem to be picking up good points just at the right time at the moment, whilst everyone else is starting to bunch up. I mean, Mane and especially Gundogan for you.
Yeah.
I'm always intrigued. What made you pick up Gundogan in the first place?
I don't know. I've had him for a while now. I think I must have watched one of the games and I must have seen him play. And I've looked over his stats because, like Tom said last week, I like to look at the stats of the players, and that really influences who I pick. And I've noticed that we always talk about the rotation of the City team, but he plays 90 minutes in almost every single game. So I sort of went off that, and I thought he's played every game for the full game. So he's got to be one of the better City players to have in that regard, because at least I know he's going to play. So, he's midfield, so he could pick up clean sheet points, even if he's not scoring. But now he seems to just be scoring for fun. So it's really, I can't complain with that pickup at all. So really, really happy with that one.
It's probably been the best pickup of the whole season for anyone, really. I mean, he's just gone absolutely wild, hasn't he? I think he scored double figures, must be at least 3-4 times in like the last 2 months.
Yeah, must be.
Crazy, really. I mean, obviously you can always rely on Mane. He your number one pick for
I
at the
think he might
draft
have been.
itself?
Yeah, I think he might have been. Yeah,
He,
he's been
I think
solid
he's-
for me this season. So he's had a few
yeah.
poor patches, but yeah, no, he has been good so far.
I think it's like I said, you guys just seem to be picking up the points just at the right time. With Maguire picking up a goal as well, you can't really complain of 6 goals scored for a defender.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like at the start of the season, I had like pretty much all the big main defenders that score goals as well. So Zuma, Maguire, Mings, Vestergaard. So I was picking up a lot of. I think that's where I've picked up a lot of points. Is a lot of my defenders scoring goals for me, not necessarily my strikers, which hasn't been the strongest forward force of all of our teams. So I'm quite pleased with my defender pickups, but with Vestergaard getting injured, that's been a big loss, I think, for me recently. And Zuma not playing as well at the moment is really rattling my brain as to what to do with him.
It's a weird one.
I keep holding on to him because he's been like, for me, he's been absolutely crucial in my team, and I don't understand why he's not playing at the moment. I can't seem to find anything to suggest why. So I'm just holding on to him because if he comes back and plays, I feel like if he plays this week against Burnley, I feel like that could be good points, but I don't know. I don't know what to do with him, to be honest.
It's a difficult one when teams change their managers halfway through the season, because you think, okay, they've got a fairly settled side, and then they're basically just, these managers would just walk in, rip up anything that they've done for the last 19 game weeks, 20 game weeks, and then just start afresh with their own philosophies, really. I think you might, I don't know, whether you keep Zuma for a couple of weeks, because I suppose with Tuchel coming in for Chelsea, he's probably going to give a number of players a little chance from game to game. So that heavy rotation might come in for the first 3, 4, 5 game weeks, but then if Zuma picks up good points again and plays well, then actually he might end up being in the side between now and the end of the season as well.
Yeah. I can only dream that he plays again.
The strikers for your side, I mean, obviously we know that strikers are a fairly, they're at a premium anyway.
Yeah.
Have you thought about sending, I know you're a stats man in terms of free agents and waivers and stuff, but have you thought about trading or attempting to trade for possibly a striker?
It's a difficult one for me because I don't feel like, I mean, I say last season, I had Ings, who was a really good strike force, but then I think he was the only strike force I had last year. And Adams, he has done me well every now and again. So and Abraham, again, he has these random weeks where he comes on and does score some points. But I think for me personally, I'm not convinced that the strike force is really, and this might get me in a lot of trouble, but I'm not sure if it's the most important part of our team picking here. I'm not sure.
Do you know? I'm
because they only score points if they like assist or score. They don't get clean sheet points, or never seems like they do. Is that right? They don't get clean sheet points.
Yeah, so midfielders only get the one extra for a clean sheet, but strikers are solely reliant on goals and assists. And I'm inclined to agree with you because actually, I mean, if you look recently, I think it's 7 out the last 8 top scorers per game week have all been defenders.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
you're not wrong there.
Whether they get used in a trade for someone else that I'm after, potentially. But, I keep seeing these trades going on in the group about these injured forwards that people like either don't want to keep or do want to keep, and I'm like, oh, maybe I could trade for one of the ones I've got, but then they're not really worth. I don't think the ones I've got are worth much to people. So, and I'm not, like I've said, I've made one change this week, so I've bought in Batshuayi and got rid of Dakota Reeve because he just sat on my bench anyway. The whole time I've had him, I don't think he's ever played. So that's a change I've made. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't think it's not the focus of my team, and
no,
I feel like I would have to lose someone that is focus of my team to get a decent striker, who then again, it seems like a lot of the strikers have just not been that reliable this season, and it's not something I want to rely on.
No, I think, even if we look at kind of the top scorers for from the striker standpoint, Kane, obviously being the top one, now injured. Vardy had an operation.
Yeah.
Bamford is somehow on 104. He gets about 20 chances a game, scores one, maybe two, or nothing.
I can't see Tom giving him up anytime soon.
No, definitely not. I just think I'm with you on that front. Although I feel that I've got kind of three run-of-the-mill decent strikers. Actually, the defenders and the midfielders seem to be where the points are at this season.
Yeah. So if you got any other questions for my Game Week 20 team, or do you want to move on to my Game Week 21 team sheet?
No, we can move on.
Okay. Yeah, so like I said, I've swapped out Dakota for Batshuayi and I've brought in Højbjerg for Ndidi. And you're going to ask me why, aren't you?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Well, I think Ndidi's picked up an injury. I'd only just brought him in for the last game week anyway, so he's not really... I'm not loyal to him. And I think Højbjerg had a good week, so I've brought him in. We'll see how he gets on.
At the end of the day,
I feel like I've not lost anything. I didn't feel like I'd lost anything in giving Ndidi back to the pool because I only brought him in last week and he only got me a point. So, I was happy and he's injured, so I was happy just to swap him out for someone that hopefully will play and, get me more points, but we'll see. Like any of these people, there's a bit of a gamble, but that's part of the game, isn't it? I think, and Gundogan was a gamble. Gundogan was a gamble, and he's done me well. So
it certainly paid off. The Batshuayi, obviously, Palace have got three strikers now with Benteke. They brought in a lad called Mateta coming from the German league, and then Batshuayi. Batshuayi obviously picked up that goal in the last couple of seconds against West Ham. Time seems to be not on his side with the amount of minutes that he's picking up. Was that just because he scored, or?
I looked. Yeah, his stats aren't great. He's not done much recently at all. But like we've discussed, I knew I needed to do something with my forwards, and he seemed like the best option I could go for, given my position in terms of the waiver selection process. So I knew I wasn't going to get any of the prime forwards that are in free agency, if there are any.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just picked him up. Probably because he scored last week, and they seem to have a fairly okay run of games. So we'll see. I haven't fully decided on my game sheet yet. And I was hoping that on the DraftCast I could pressure you into giving me some advice. So, I don't know. I'm really struggling about who to play between like Zuma and Abraham. Because at the moment, you can see I've got Abraham at the bottom of my bench, and I've got Zuma first, and then Ndombele in the middle. But other than that, I
I
can't.
think
Yeah.
I'd be tempted to play Abraham just for the sake of, like I mentioned, with the new manager at Chelsea. I think he's going to give a couple of players their own chance. And the fact that he started with Giroud in midweek, there's a likelihood that he could well give Tammy a go
Yeah.
this weekend. And almost the same for Zuma as well. At the end of the day, if they don't come in, at least you've not lost anything apart from the subs coming in off the bench. And
Exactly.
same with the kind of Ndombele seems to be playing a fairly forward role for Spurs. I'd be tempted to actually play him instead of Højbjerg, but Højbjerg is always going to guarantee you 90 minutes, and Ndombele is going to be anything between, say, 55 and he's very rarely going to play 90 minutes,
Yeah.
or seems to have rarely played 90 minutes so far. He's a good player with the capability of scoring a goal or grabbing an assist, but it depends whether you want to feel comfortable with the certainty of somebody to play 90 minutes or the gamble of, although arguably a more attacking player, could end up just getting the 1 point because they're lasting 60 minutes or less, or they're coming off the bench.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've been struggling to fit my defenders. Like I said earlier, like I've got Mings and Maguire in, but I don't think those are going to be clean sheets. Maybe. Yeah, I don't think either of those games are going to be a clean sheet, but I appreciate that they might both score because they have in the past from set pieces.
Definitely.
So I sort of wanted them in. Then again, Holding, if that's not going to be because I swap him for Zuma. Do we think that the Tottenham game is going to be a clean sheet for Tottenham? I have to go with that it will be. So I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
you'd probably place the needle slightly more towards clean sheet than conceding with Spurs.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you with regards to Maguire and Mings, although Villa have been fairly solid at the back for the majority of the season. Obviously, picking up plenty of clean sheets.
Yeah.
Obviously, not so much just recently, but with Mings, he's always going to be an aerial threat from set pieces. The same, same with Konsa as well. Villa centre backs are kind of, they're always the aim from a set piece. And Maguire loves a header as well.
Yeah.
Again, he's the main man to get his full head on the ball. So I definitely stick with Maguire, Mings, Dyer as well. Dyer loves I don't know why, but he loves taking a free kick as well. So you never know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So I might swap Zuma and Holding, and then maybe Abraham and Batman.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think with the odds being that Batshuayi may well be on the bench again,
Yeah.
I'd probably take the gamble with Abraham. But taking my advice hasn't really been very good for the majority of people this season, and taking my own advice has not really done me so well. So take it all with a pinch of salt, but it's all a bit of a gamble, really.
No, yeah, definitely. I think it's good. It does help to talk it through with people though, that like yourself, who know way more about these teams than I do. In the likelihood, like you say about Crystal Palace picking up a new striker and all that. That's just stuff I don't know, so I wouldn't take that into consideration. So it is all useful information.
Well, this is it. It's I've always, well, hopefully I've always given off the impression that anybody could really come to me with any advice, but. Like I said, this season I think my advice has been fairly poor, so all I'm going to do is apologise for that to everyone. But it's a long game to hopefully make you fall to the bottom of the table. And
we appreciate your stats, though, Adam. So that makes up for it.
Oh, that's good to know. That's good to know.
So I think we'll leave that there, and we'll move on to predictions for game week 21. So teams, Adam. Teams for game week 21. Out of our guys, who do you think is going to score the highest this week?
I am going to go with a gamble. I'm going to go with George.
Okay, interesting.
Bottom of the league, but I think he's made a couple of nice little changes through waivers. And I just like the look of his side. I mean, barring Pickford in goal, I mean, I don't really like Pickford in general, but Newcastle at home, you would hope for a clean sheet.
Yeah.
Luke Shaw in the form of his life for United. Stuart Dallas seems to be fluctuating between fullback and playing in midfield, picks up good points. James Justin as well, good attacking fullback. And then I like the look of his midfield with Pulisic, Neto, Easy. We're not too sure whether Aubameyang's going to play, but if he does, then happy days for George. And I just think that George has got a nice little team going on here, and I don't think he's quite got the points that he might have expected. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go with George for this week.
Very good. Well, I'm actually going to go with you again this week.
Oh no!
I'm banking on the Southampton game being another, because I feel like going into this time, Villa are definitely the favoured team because I don't think the Saints have been on the best of form recently, and with Grealish and Watkins, I think they could end up picking up a lot of points, and if the Bale gamble comes off, that could be again potentially a lot of points. And you, like you said about your Wolves striker, and with Man City, with Sheffield, I mean, you'd like to think that's going to be a clean sheet, and Foden plays a bit more and gets the points that he's supposed to be getting at the moment. So who knows?
Definitely.
Yeah. So I've gone with you.
We'll go with that. I'll hold you to that, and if I don't, then I'll take a trade off you.
Oh, interesting. Player then. What about a player for this week?
I think, like I mentioned, with the defenders being the top scorers, 7 out of the last 8 game weeks. Again, I'm going to go with a bit of a gamble, and I'm going to go with Tolly's Man City, João Cancelo, who actually top scored last week.
He did, didn't he?
And watching the game against West Brom, he was exceptional. He was definitely man of the match, really, from my point of view. So I fancy him to do the same again. So I'm going to go with Cancelo.
Fair enough. Good choice. Is it fair for me to pick one of my own players? I was going to go with Gundogan.
There would be no reason why not with Gundogan with the amount of points that he's getting at the moment.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. We've still only had one incorrect prediction, so take it with a pinch of salt, guys. But yeah, it's a bit of fun, isn't it? Right. So next up, I'm going to do a little announcement, shall we say? And so I'll share this for you, Adam. So you get we'll get a live reaction from Adam on this one. Okay. So guys, as you know, this YouTube channel and this podcast is fairly new, and we're only starting out. But I feel like there's good engagement with the group, so I thought it would be interesting to get some merch. So, Adam, you can now go and look on my screen. And
holy moly!
Welcome everyone to the DraftCast merch store.
Wow!
So
sign me up.
You can pick up a hoodie, an iPhone case, a mug, or even a T-shirt. There's different colours for the hoodie, phone case, and T-shirt. The mug only comes in white, unfortunately. But yeah, feel free to pick up some merch, guys. All the proceeds will come back to improving this podcast. And yeah, it would be really appreciated if you would help us out. But there's no obligation, obviously. Unfortunately, I have got some on order, but it hasn't arrived yet. So, but next time, you'll definitely see me sporting my DraftCast merch. And hopefully you'll pick up some too. But yeah.
That is quality. I am literally. I'll order one of everything. Like, no problem with that whatsoever. That is so good.
Yeah.
When I mean, what first of all made you? Did you plant the seed last week with the avatar?
I guess you could say that. I knew before that I could do this. So I've known for a while that I could set this up, and it's always it's been something I've had in the back pocket. And I needed to firstly make a few adjustments to the brand, because I think the logo as it stood had the Premier League lion in it. So I wanted to take that out just for safety.
Yeah.
So there's a few things I need to do before I could do this. So, but yeah, I'm happy with it. I'm excited to see what its quality's like when it comes, but it should be. I'm hopeful it's going to be suitable for us. So yeah, no, exciting.
That's fantastic. I mean, I'm 100% going to be ordering one of everything on that, no doubt. When you mentioned obviously things haven't arrived just yet. When do you have an ETA on that?
I know they've been dispatched. I ordered them on earlier this week, so this should be a fairly quick turnaround. I'll let you guys know, and when I get it, and I'll put some pictures on for you guys to see. So yeah, I'll keep you posted
Fantastic.
on that one.
Can't wait for that. That's going to be so good.
Okay, so that's my announcement. Adam, we're going to move on to your segment. I'm sure this is the part that everybody's been looking forward to the most. So, Adam, I'll let you introduce your segment, because I know nothing about this, and I'm sure, like I've said, everyone's really looking forward to it.
So my segment is looking at form, really. So we're looking at kind of who is being fairly consistent with the first 20 game weeks, and kind of what do we expect from a good, a bad, and an average game week score. So what I've done is I've split the whole league into 5 game week blocks, and I've taken everyone's game week score and put them into a table to see as to actually what each person's form has been like throughout the season.
Okay.
With regards to the good, the bad, and the average, I think we spoke about this before on the WhatsApp group, where I'm going to ask you, Luke, what would you say would be an average game week score? What would you be like if you scored X amount of points? What would you be like in terms of saying, okay, that's good, but not bad? Where would you say? What value would you place that at?
I think I'm going to say around the 45 mark. I know we thought this year it was going to be low. However, I feel like we've had a lot of fairly decent 50s and some 60s. So I think a lot of people tend to probably hedge higher, don't they? So maybe I've done that. But yeah, I'm going to say 45 as an average game week score.
It's very interesting that you mentioned that. So I'll go through it, and then we'll go back to that prediction. So
okay,
we're going to look at game weeks 1 to 5 first of all. So this basically, obviously, at the end of game week 5, this is what the table looked like. So Lawrence was at the top, Jim, Jack, myself, yourself, Luke, and then bottom half, Will, Tolly, Richard, Tom, and George. So first of all, I just want to make the point that actually you can see on the right-hand side that the difference in points between the top player in Lawrence and the bottom in George was 82 points.
Yeah.
Now, this is quite interesting because you mentioned that obviously as the league seems to be going on, we're all starting to bunch up a little bit more. And it's kind of keeping everyone, interested, I would say. Whereas perhaps, say, in previous seasons, obviously that difference has been a little bit more vast, and people can lose interest a little bit more. So it's this part here is actually interesting to see, from people like myself, George, Tom, Tolly, Will, managers that are in the bottom half at the moment, that actually that difference area there is going to be interesting coming through over the next lot of kind of 5 game week tables.
Yeah.
So I've kept everyone fairly color coded, so hopefully people can kind of monitor their own form. But it's interesting that game weeks 1 to 5, Lawrence top scored with 248. So he's splitting that into 5. Obviously, I'm not going to get into decimal points, but you're going to say it's going to be an average of around the 49.50 per week, and that is being classed as, you would say, obviously finishing first would be classed as a good 5 game week block. So
Yeah.
you're wanting to average around the 49.50. But we've got to play into context that the first 5 weeks, everyone's just finding out kind of where they're sitting, how good the players are this season. So we're looking at kind of around the 49.50 point game week mark to be top. So when we move into game weeks 6 to 10, you can notice that yourself had a worldy time of it, closely followed by Rich and Jim. And then there was a bit of a drop off there. So you can see, although actually the difference is a lot lower between game week 6 and 10, actually the scores were starting to remain a fairly decent constant for the top teams, the top managers. But actually the second half of that table, you can see that Lawrence has gone from top all the way to bottom.
Yeah.
So the consistency for Lawrence in the first 10 game weeks was fairly minimal, after being top after 5 game weeks and then taking the second lot as the second half of it, somehow finishes bottom. And so you can see that you gained 62 points on him over a course of a 5-week period, which is not too shabby at all. You can see that there's quite a number of people there just starting to drop into less than the 200 mark. So you can see then from this point of view that your average game week is going to be around the 40-point mark, rather than your top end, which again is going to be around the 49.50. Moving on into game weeks 11 and 15, you can notice that the difference dramatically rises. So this is where we found that people had started to, find their feet in terms of what they wanted their teams to look like, I think.
Yeah.
And it's trades had happened. This is actually where we just started to find a fall off in the amount of trades going through. You can see that I had a proper mare. 144 points.
I wasn't going to say anything.
See, this is where I went wrong personally. I think game weeks 11 to 15, I properly shot down the league. I'd made some questionable trades in the fact that actually the trades that I was making, I would send players out and then they would actually start scoring. So had I just kept them for another week on top of when actually the trade happened, then I think I might have shown myself in a better light. But seeing that Jim was 9th with 180 and there's me at the bottom with 144, not the best of times, and I'm not going to lie, I was starting to get a bit irritated with that. But you can see also with the trade starting to drop off, Jack top scored over that 5-week block, but it was only 236. So with at the end of the day, we're talking on average, say 2, maybe 3 points less per week. But actually, that's going to make a heck of a difference. 236 is not a bad score for 5 game week blocks, But you can see from the previous, yourself and Lawrence hitting closer to 250.
Yeah.
Actually, every point does count. And I think showing the difference of kind of 92 here from top to bottom, you'll notice in the next slide actually how that has reversed itself. So game weeks 16 to 20, so everything up including this point as of right here, right now,
Yeah.
you can then see that Jack actually falls away. So the difference is still 92, but he's fallen all the way down to 165, which again is nowhere near my poor standards. But actually, Jack has just fallen off a cliff. But in reality, he's still quite high up in the table. So it's amazing actually how much, yes, 92 points can make a heck of a difference. But actually, if you're quite high up in the league as, say, yourself, Jack, and Lawrence are, you can afford to have a little bit of a blip and
Yeah.
still manage to keep your place. Obviously, the beauty of game week 16 to 20 is game week 19 we had the double. Game week 18 it was pretty much take whatever you can, because obviously there was quite a lot of teams blanking in the game week. But that has actually made an interesting difference that people like Jack, Jim, bottom two, myself, Tom, Will, George, all in the top half, and
Yeah.
then you can see that there's a bit of a gap there between Will and George's 226, and then dropping into yours at 209 and onwards from there. Actually, that we know that the league is starting to bunch up a bit, but it's interesting that if you could possibly gain 92 points on a manager that is towards the top of the league, actually, nobody is out of this title race at all. We are only just halfway through the
Yeah.
season. And if you're able to pick up 92 points between, say George could pick 92 points up compared to Lawrence over the next 5 game weeks, it'll be really interesting to see as to how that league is going to look, come game week 20, 25, 26, and then moving on into 30, 31.
Yeah.
So nobody's out of it just yet, although we might well be at the bottom. We're only halfway through, and actually the stats show that anything can happen for the top end of the league, and anything can certainly happen from the bottom end of the league.
Yeah. I mean, with only 87 points in it at the moment, it's definitely one of the tightest I've seen the league at from 1st to 10th. Even like looking
Definitely.
back at last season, there was always seemed to be hundreds of points between top and bottom. So it's good to see, actually. It is good to see it like this.
We kind of got an idea anyway that increasing the numbers was always going to kind of bunch up the league a little bit more.
Yeah.
But to have it in double figures rather than triple is great. I mean, from my point of view, I've had a bit of a mare this season compared to the previous couple. But then, like, there are times where I actually look at it and go, I don't mind being bottom for too long, because actually for the newbies like George and Richard, for people who haven't, self-proclaimed not got quite the football knowledge as, say, people like myself, Jack, Will, it keeps you guys interested in it as well.
Yeah.
And I'm actually quite happy to take that mantle to finish bottom if needed, if it keeps everyone interested, and it keeps everyone really communicating on the group and actually keeping trades happening, and just keeping everyone alive in it, really.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's a good mantle to take on there, Adam.
I'll try. I don't. I probably wouldn't be saying the same thing if it was the case in game week 38, but we'll take it now. Coincidentally, now, obviously taking this data, I've taken a bit of a gamble on doing the next slide after Tom's predictions for the next 4 game weeks. So I took that and I thought it'd be interesting to see if I can just make it a little bit more statistically viable. So what I've done is I've moved on to, rather than a prediction, I've moved on into a projection. And what I've done is, first of all, I've taken the points scored, from each block here. So everyone combined scored 2,046 in the first 5 game weeks.
Yeah.
Interesting, the average game week score was actually 41, whereas your first place average game score was 50. Now, 9 points doesn't sound a lot, but it's amazing actually when you look at between game weeks 1 and 5, 6 to 10, 11 and 15, and then 16 to 20, actually how close an average game week score is going to look compared to actually what we should be looking at. So you mentioned 45 would be a nice average score. Actually, it's a little bit less than that.
Yeah.
But if you were looking around the 45 mark, you'd probably be suggesting that you're going to end up around the second, third, fourth, something like that.
Yeah.
But actually, although we've now increased the numbers for the league from 8 to 10, first place is still getting a good average. And actually, it's a better average than previous years.
Really?
So, yeah.
That's surprising. But yeah, okay.
I know, isn't it? So what I've done on the next slide here is actually just put last season's. And just to show you that an average game week score is actually slightly higher, but the first place average game week score is actually slightly lower than actually what we're looking at this moment in time.
Yeah.
So taking all that into consideration, I thought I'd do a little bit of a projection. So don't shoot me, Tolly. But what we've done here is, I'll just explain what all the numbers are. So you can see from 1 to 10, yourself is at the top there, Luke, and kind of drifting down, Jack, Lawrence, Will, Tolly, Jim, Tom, myself, George, and Richard. And that is the projection which I've put for what I think the end of the season may look like on current form and current consistency.
Okay.
So
talk me through this table.
I thought you might like this. So the numbers on the side represent where you fell in the 5-week brackets. Okay, so you came 5th, and then you came 1st, and then you came 5th, and then you came 6th. So, in all honesty, fairly consistent.
Yep.
And when you add all those up together, makes 17. Yeah, so 5 plus 1 plus 5 plus 6, 17. So that then puts you, when we look at everyone else's form table guide, you've got the lowest overall score. So that then puts you at the most consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now the second point to make on these is, obviously we're looking at Jack, Lawrence, both on 18, Will, Tolly, Jim on 23, Tom and myself on 24, and then Richard on 25. So the reason why I've ranked people slightly higher than the others, if you've received the same kind of projection score, is you've got to take into account that there's going to be the occasional anomaly.
Yeah.
So when we look at, say, somebody like Jack, 3rd, great, 4th, great, 1st, obviously the best, and then he came down to 10th. So you'd possibly suggest that 2nd is actually going to be a little bit of a downgrade on what he may be expecting and possibly what the form has told us before.
Yeah.
So actually that 10 is a little bit of an anomaly. Whereas when we flip that round on the other way, I think I might be right in suggesting that actually it's easier to be poor at the game rather than be really good at the game. Would you say that's a fair assumption? Yeah. So what I've then done is, for the teams that have ended up on the same projection points, is take away their best form bracket. Okay,
Right.
to take a little bit more of a consistency, because you're always going to. It's a bit of a pessimistic look at it, but actually you're always going to be more towards being slightly poorer than slightly good. So if I took the 1 away from Jack, he would end up with a score of 17. Yeah.
Yep.
Whereas if I took 1 away from Lawrence, he would also get 17. But the consistency of 10th, 6th, and 1st is nil, because he's got the ability of being really, really good or really, really bad.
Yeah.
Whereas if you took the 1 away from Jack, yes, he's still got a 10, but that 3 and 4 is more consistent than the 1 and the 6.
Yep. I'm following you.
Yeah. So that's basically the route that I've gone down. So same thing with Will, Tolly, and Jim. Take away their best possible score. So take Will's 4th place away. It would end up with 6, 5, and 8, and which comes to 19. Take Tolly's 2nd away, and he comes to 21. Whereas if you take Jim's 2nd away, he'd also take 21 as well. But the consistency of 777 would be the 399.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that is then my kind of projection, really. I'm not going to say it's a prediction because I'll get mugged off.
Yeah.
But you'd probably suggest that halfway through the season, or just over that, the projection shows an interesting case of events, because poor Richard obviously is actually mid-table at the moment. So I've got a lot of love for Richard. He's a really, really top guy. And all I'm going to do now is grovel and say, I'm really sorry, but I don't make these stats up.
Yeah. And like, same with Tom's last week. Hopefully it's a way to inspire people to start making some changes, or, try and make changes and try and make some improvements to the teams that they've got. So it's interesting. It's really interesting, and a different way of looking at it to what Tom did last week. So yeah. Obviously, I'm going to be the happy one here because I'm at the top, but we'll see. We'll see.
So coincidentally, my segment doesn't actually finish there. I thought I'd do something a little bit interesting for you, Luke.
Okay.
I have, apologies behind your back, gone round everyone in the league, and I thought it'd be interesting to do a little Q&A with the broadcaster.
Okay, I like it.
So I hope you don't mind.
No, let's do it.
Some of these questions are draft related, some of them are not. They are going to be asked anonymously, but there's probably a couple in there where you could probably guess who would ask that question.
Oh, God. Okay.
So, first things first, question 1. Why did you start the DraftCast?
That is a very good question. I'd like to say that I wanted to bring something more to the group, because I know I'm not the best at talking in the WhatsApp group or really bringing much to the football side of it. But I thought I could do something where I could speak to everyone on an individual basis, but then it's still engaging for everybody else to listen along. I wanted to learn some more skills in the sort of editing videos and audio recording. So yeah, it seems like a really cool thing to try and do. And hopefully you guys will tell me, but hopefully it's working well and going well. So yeah, I think at the moment I'm keeping it easy, but I would like to see it grow outside of our group, but we'll see. I'm staying pessimistic at the moment.
Fair enough. I think I can speak on, or I'd hope I could speak on behalf of the whole league here, with my vice presidency hat on, and say, actually, this has been a really big addition to the league, and I've loved every single one so far. I put it on the telly just because I like to sit down with a coffee and
Yeah,
actually really indulge into it. And I've personally really enjoyed every
good.
single one. And they seem to be getting better and better. So I hope that actually I've not let the side down on this point.
Oh no, I'm sure you haven't. I'll tell you, we are at the 1 hour mark at the moment, so this is going to be the longest one by a while. But I think it's fitting that I saved you to last for good reasons. So yeah, no, it's going well so far.
Good. That's good. So question 2: what has been the biggest challenge when launching the DraftCast?
Biggest challenge, I would say, for me, has been trying to pick up the skill of talking as a host. I don't think I've got it down just right yet. I'm still saying a lot, and you don't hear it in the actual release because I cut them out because I hate listening to it so much. And listening to my own voice over and over again has been definitely wearing me down when I've been editing. But I think the finished product, I'm proud of what I'm putting out. So yeah, the challenge has definitely been being able to talk. And if you were to see the editing, the software, you'll notice that the audio channels, the guest does most of the talking on the DraftCast. It's not me. So I try to get the guest talking because I know I'm not going to be the best at it. But hopefully the more I do it, the better I'll get. So I think for me, that's been the biggest challenge doing it.
Good. Well, I can, like I've mentioned, everything's been really good. And I can personally tell that you're growing into it all the time, which is great because obviously you're get more confident with it. So long may that continue. Question 3: whose DraftCast segment have you enjoyed the most? And don't worry, you can bar me out of this.
That's an interesting one. Now you're testing me on my memory of remembering all the segments as well. At the moment, I think I'll go with Tom's because I liked the graph representation that we had. But I think it's also fair to say that Jim hasn't had a chance to do a segment yet. So not everyone has done a segment because it was something we added in after the first episode. So yeah, at the moment, I'll go with Tom's graph illustrations because I thought they were a different way of showing the statistics that we've had so far.
Okay, good. Next question. Do you think your current league standing is related to launching the DraftCast in any way?
So it's an interesting one because I feel like I haven't really moved around much on the league standing since launching the DraftCast. I feel like I have actually always been sort of in the top 3 for most of the season now. But what I would say is I do think it has distracted me a little bit. So I feel like the performances, bar the week we've just had, haven't been as strong as I would like. So it's definitely slightly taking away my full attention of my team. So it's something I need to balance better. But I wouldn't say it's impacted me too much, but we'll see. Hopefully that I haven't jinxed myself and now going to bomb down the league.
I was going to say Jack and whoever's in 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th is they're now smiling. So keep doing what you're doing, Luke. Next, what are your thoughts on Southampton and the season that they are having?
I think they've had a great start to the season. This Christmas period probably hasn't been great for them. So I'm hoping they'll pick things up for the next half of the season. Yeah, I think having only followed them for the season, I can't speak for prior seasons, but it seems like they're having one of their best seasons so far. So yeah, it's interesting to follow them, and hopefully they'll pick up some form. Like we've discussed already, when Vestergaard starts again, maybe he was more of a a big part of their team than they probably realised. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens when he's back, and hopefully they can get back some of the form that they had at the start of the season.
Hopefully only starting in game week 22. Obviously, we know that they're going to get beat this weekend, so don't worry about that.
Oh, well, I did say that. Villa are probably the favoured going into this week, so yeah.
But yeah, I completely agree with everything that you've just mentioned there, actually. Next one. Please explain your emotions at not winning the El Presidente Cup.
I think that final game week, that final, was probably watching the Saints game was probably the first time I've ever watched Premier League football and actually reacted to what happened in the game. Like when Vestergaard scored from the corner with Ward-Prowse taking the corner, I actually cheered out loud. I was like, come on, because it was like my two players. And I was like, this is it. I can't. It was what I needed to happen, and it happened. But obviously when Ings came, I could not believe Ings came on to score the penalty to win it for Lawrence. 1 point. Yeah. I think my emotions are very bitter, but well done to Lawrence, of course. It was a great cup. I'm looking forward to the next one, and hopefully we can do better. So, yeah. But no, I've thoroughly enjoyed the cup. I'm going to put that out here. The cup has been a great addition as well, and hopefully the next one will be also just as good and a good a final as that was. So, yeah, it was definitely emotional.
Very hard. I mean, from the outside looking in, it was an emotional roller coaster anyway. So let alone being inside of it, it was fairly impressive, and it set the bar very, very high for everything to come this season and going on. So the next one, if you could be any footballer, who would it be and why?
Oh wow, that's not something I could say I've ever thought about. Who? No. A footballer? What footballer would I be and why? I don't know. I'm going to be biased here, and I'm going to say I'm just going to go with Ward-Prowse because I think he's been great for my team in the draft, but he's also been great for Saints this season. And I quite like the position of being, say, an underdog for the season. And I think him and Saints are that to some degree. And he's sort of, heading that team on that for that role. So yeah, I think I'd go with Ward-Prowse. Yeah.
I think that's a really good answer, actually. I like that. Next one. Now you have Polly, how many dogs do you want?
Whilst I'm on my own, just the one, thanks. One is enough. Like, she's great. I think I may have mentioned, but she now realizes when I'm coming off a call at work. So when I'm saying goodbye or coming off the call and taking my headphones off, she jumps off the bed and comes over. She's like worked it out. So yeah, she's great company to have. Whilst I'm on my own at the moment, but yeah, no, you couldn't have more on your own. You definitely need more than two hands.
It definitely take more attention away from the draft.
Yeah, definitely.
But a good attention though, good attention.
Yeah.
Great. Actually, the next one's quite interesting. Do you see this as a possible career change, going from a civil engineer to a podcast host?
I knew something like this was coming. So, for the listeners that don't know me, I am not a civil engineer. I am an engineer to do with buildings, but not civil engineering. No, I don't see this as a career change from engineering to podcast host. It would be great. I mean, it would be absolutely great if this took off and, I could do it full time. But we're nowhere near there yet. And that's not even on my thought as that's why I'm doing it. Of course, it's not. I'm very lucky in the actual job I have and what they've funded for me. So I'm very loyal to who I work for at the moment. So this podcast would have to explode for me to switch jobs at the moment. Let's put it that way.
That's fair. That's fair.
But seeing that is rage-inducing.
Thought it might do.
Yeah.
And actually, the person that put that question to me did say that would probably make you a little bit more wound up. So I think that's done its job.
I think it's not. I don't get wound up by it anymore. It's just like it's still going on. I can just let it go now. But yeah, it's funny. That is funny.
Yeah. Next question. Who has the most difficult engineering job? You or Tom?
Okay. That's an interesting question. I guess it depends on your definition of difficult. There's probably many ways to look at it from an engineering perspective. You can look at it from your responsibility in who you work for and your role. So, Tom probably has more responsibility in terms of a team that he leads at the moment. You could probably suggest, but then you could also, you could go down the responsibility of as a designer and what getting it wrong could mean. Potentially, what I do if I get that wrong could have massive impacts to the building project that we're working on. So I think I'm going to just say it's fairly level at the moment because neither of us know what the other does day to day and what, true skills that we have in our roles. So I think it's very hard to compare, but you're comparing the automotive industry to the construction industry. So whose liability you could say has a more dire impact to the general public? You could go down that route, but I'm not going to answer the question fully.
I think we can speak for everyone when we reckon it's you, obviously. I mean, Tom's got it. Next one. Are you still fraternising with your lady friend whilst on dog walks with Polly?
If the person I think has asked this, that is very bad of them because they know that I'm not speaking to this person at all. So
oh no,
that's really bad. Whoever's asked that. No, she has gone quiet. So yeah, no, I haven't spoken to her or seen her. I don't know, probably in about a month now. So no, poor Polly has no dog friend anymore.
Well, we all know who the loser is there, and it's certainly not you or
Thank you.
Next one. What did you make of Tom's statistics model after it showed that you would sink to mid-table? Are you worried, or do you think that the model is trash?
I think it's thought-provoking for sure. Like I said, I did like Tom's statistics, but mainly those of what's happened. I didn't really comment too much on the prediction that he made. I think he was well within his rights to try and come up with a way of showing some form that's coming up. So I have nothing against what he did. It's definitely concerning for those of us that are at the top and he's showing coming down the table. However, I feel like this week has been good form for us. So yeah, going forward, I'm quietly confident in the team, but I don't think my form has been that great recently, so we'll see.
Okay, that's good. Next one. If you were in charge of the end of season AGM, what forfeits would you put in place for somebody that finishes in last place?
That is an interesting question. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of drinking forfeits, so what would I do that's different? I think I would, I'd probably do a special DraftCast episode for this person that comes last. And we can do a full evaluation of their season and explain why they lost. And they have to sit there.
Excellent.
And they're not allowed to talk throughout the DraftCast, throughout the whole episode. In fact, we could have everybody on, and they're the only person not allowed to talk until the very last 5 seconds, and they get 5 seconds to defend themselves, shall we say?
I like that a lot. I really pray that that's not going to be me now.
I mean, it could be me. Imagine that. That'd be an interesting one.
Oh, dearie me. Next one. End of season prediction from first to last place.
Right. First to last place.
Yeah. So what do you think the league is going to look like at the very end? Who's going to win it? Who's going to come second?
Who's going to win it? I'm going to put my money on Jack to win.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is his year. I'm going to put myself second. I feel like I've been second most of the season, so probably that's where I'm going to end up. Then we'll go Lawrence. Then, so what's that? Jack, me, Lawrence in third. We'll go, I'll say Will for fourth. He's probably going to have a strong end to the season, I reckon. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to say you for fifth, Tom for sixth, George for seventh, Rich for eighth. And then who have I missed? Have I missed someone?
Jimmy.
Yeah, then Jim ninth. And
you'll love that.
Tolly last. Just to infuriate him.
Yep. You heard it here first, sports fans. The Allman Brothers, bottom two.
Yeah.
We don't make predictions. We only give spoilers here, so don't worry.
Imagine.
Next question, and last question, actually. What does the draft mean to you?
The draft. Wow, this is like the meaning of life question, isn't it?
It really is, actually. Yeah.
The draft is great fun. I have to put it out there. It is great fun, even for someone like me who's not the biggest football fan. But every year, I'm enjoying it way more. Yeah, it's just good camaraderie, really. It's just a great group of guys to be involved with and competing with. Yeah. I mean, we all love it, so it's just a good laugh, good fun, but still competitive at the same time. And doing the DraftCast has really helped me be engaged with it more, I think. So yeah, no, I'm just thoroughly enjoying it as always. And so, I have to give credit to you and Jim for adding, things like the cup, regular stats from yourself, and yeah, just, keeping it going the way it has been. So yeah, no, thank you very much, you two.
You're more than welcome. As long as everyone enjoys it, that's really the biggest thing.
Yeah, we all do,
but
for sure.
Oh, well, that's good. That's good. That is it from me.
Brilliant. God, probably feel like I was being interviewed there. No, that was good. I enjoyed that. That was interesting, making me think on the spot. I like it. Yeah, so we'll call it there. I mean, this is by far the longest episode we've ever had, and so I hope everybody's ready for listening to this. But thanks for coming on, Adam. Great segment.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. I've really enjoyed it, and I can't wait for the next one already. Yeah,
I know. I knew you were very. You couldn't wait to get on. That's why I saved you to last. Made you wait the longest. But yeah, great having you on as always. And so we'll call it there. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you can, subscribe, like the video. Leave us a comment for what other segments you'd like to see other than the regular ones. And yeah, this is the DraftCast. And remember, draft is life. See you next time.